President Trump is doing what I believe is the biggest free market reform of health care in a generation. This reform, if it works and goes as planned, will allow millions of people to get insurance across state lines at an inexpensive price.
All right. What the senator left out is he really is the one who came up with this idea that the president was touting in this executive order signing today. The Kentucky Republican, former presidential candidate Rand Paul, with us right now. Senator, thank you for taking the time.
Hey, Neil.
Let's talk a little bit about how this changes what was already out there, because you already have some legal types who will tell me the president can't do this any more than the president before him was pushing executive orders to do what he wanted. What do you say?
Well, the difference is we're talking about getting rid of a law or a restriction on constitutional behavior. First Amendment you have the right to peaceably assemble. That has been taken as a right to associate. NAACP versus Alabama back in the 60s reaffirmed that decision. So yes, you have a right to associate. The government was preventing people from associating. So people are allowed inherently. They have the natural freedom to join associations. The government was saying they couldn't. But here's the interesting thing. Over half of the people in our country who have private insurance already associate across state lines through corporations. So half the insurance sold in our country is large group ERISA plans that is largely free of a lot of the regulatory morass that brings prices up. Interestingly, the people who have this large group cross-state insurance already have the slowest increase in premiums of any place in the market. It actually works. People like their insurance. You work for General Motors or Ford or Toyota, most people like that insurance. Now we're going to let the plumber and the baker and the pest control guy, we're going to let all those people join associations and get the same purchasing power, but also the same good insurance that big corporations get.
You know, you're talking about ERISA, the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, that would allow some of this flexibility and extending it here. I would be curious, though. We noticed, Senator, that a lot of hospital-related stocks were down, and largely on fears, I think, that those who are not in a pool of healthy Americans who are able to get more flexible coverage elsewhere would be in a pool of their own that could be decidedly costlier. What do you make of that?
Here's the interesting thing. Group coverage can't deny anybody. They can't discriminate, and they have to accept people with pre-existing conditions. The other thing's an economic principle. If you have 3 people in your business and one of them gets leukemia, your pool of 3 is sort of devastated economically because the insurance company will gouge you for that. But if you're you join the National Restaurant Association, there's 15 million people, and one person gets leukemia, you're hidden in a large group. But I promise you, none of these statewide groups are going to be allowed to discriminate. They're going to accept all comers. And one of the beauties of this, if we can get them to a large and substantial size, nobody's too worried actually about the pre-existing conditions anyway, because it gets swallowed up in the enormity of the group size. But insurance companies do not like this, and they are worried that we'll cut into their profits. Insurance company profits doubled or almost tripled under Obamacare, right. And they still want individuals. They want more money to pay for individuals to get insurance. This is going to empower the consumer, and the consumer will be king in the equation again.
Senator, as you're speaking, we're monitoring very closely. The Chief of Staff, General Kelly, is addressing reporters right now, so we'll monitor what he's going to be saying. But he has also talked, the administration has talked about sticking to an aggressive timetable, not only to repeal and ultimately replace Obamacare, whether this is an effort in that direction or not, but also on taxes. And Speaker Paul Ryan said today, even if that means voting on Christmas Eve to get this thing done, we will get it done. Is that the sentiment in the Senate as well?
You know, I'm all in for cutting taxes. The one thing I've been vocal on is I want to make sure that we look at the details of the plan, that we make sure that the middle class is getting a tax cut and not a tax increase.
Does that mean, by the way, because I heard that as well, sir, not too long ago, and I'm wondering, was that a threat that you would be a possible no vote on this if someone who gets their taxes raised?
Neil, I would call it a helpful suggestion, and I will tell you the president's listening. The president has told me several times now, he said, I will not raise taxes on the middle income folks, and he's pointed at his people and said, make sure it doesn't happen. But I'll tell you why we're concerned, so we can all be on the same wavelength. Middle income people from $75,000 to $300,000 pay at the 25% rate. If you take 2 big deductions from them and you keep the rate the same, there's a good chance some people's taxes are going up in that tax bracket. So you either have to lower that rate.
You wouldn't want those deductions removed then, because that
Excuse me?
You wouldn't want those deductions removed then, because all of a sudden they would face higher. Are you saying
there are ways to accommodate for
it. Are you saying, and we're monitoring, by the way, Chief of Staff Kelly says he is not intending to leave. We'll keep monitoring.
Right.
I want to stick with this guy.
There are ways to accommodate it for Neil, but if you keep the rate the same, if you keep the rate the same and get rid of deductions, my worry is taxes will go up. So you have to do something. You can either move the rate lower.
If any group is raised, sir, if any taxes are raised, is this your way of saying, I just can't vote for it?
I think the better way of looking at it is the preponderance of people. Most everybody has to get a tax cut. Is there going to be a rare exception? There might be. But I want virtually everybody in the middle class to get a tax cut. I want virtually everybody at the lower end to be held harmless or get a tax cut. And I'm fine with cutting the taxes for the rich as well. I want everybody to have a tax cut. But I tell people, and they need to listen to this carefully, if you cut taxes on the rich and you raise taxes on the middle class, you're going to meet a dead wall. You have to make sure everybody in the middle class, or the vast majority, get a tax cut. That's all I'm advocating for, and the president agrees with me completely. So I think it's going to happen, but the details are very important in this, and I want to make sure before it gets cranked out on the floor that they have addressed our very real concerns that there are some parts of the bill right now that could allow the middle class to have a tax increase. They've assured me at the White House they don't want this, and I'm going to continue to work with them, but I want to make sure the middle class gets a tax cut.
Did you notice any frustration in the White House? John Kelly is addressing this right now, sir, saying he has no intention of leaving, and he's taking reporters' questions. It comes after this dust-up with Senator Corker and some nastiness that apparently we're told General Kelly was not fond of. What do you think of this and the personnel issues? Are they a concern to you? Do you think the president has a personnel problem?
You know, the interesting thing, I was just there. I was in the White House with the president, with the budget director, with the vice president, with General Kelly, and I saw a working, functioning, cohesive team is what I saw. Now, I'm not there all the time.
Right.
I'm there on occasion, but I've never seen anything less than professionalism, and I hear nothing but compliments that General Kelly has brought professionalism there. And none of us are going to always agree all the time, but I've seen nothing but professionalism.
Does that apply to the way the president addressed and talked about your colleague, Senator Corker?
You know, I don't know exactly what you mean by that, but I do know that my interactions. Well, my interactions have always been good with the president. I think the president's doing a great job, and I think what he wants is best for the country. That is to reduce taxes on everyone. And I think he truly wants to see economic growth in our country. And we have such pessimism. Look, President Obama couldn't get out of the 1% growth rate. We were less than 2%. But historically, for 100 years before that, we were over 3%. I think President Trump wants us to grow again. And I think you can see when you go and you see blue-collar workers at his rallies, they do believe that he cares about getting them jobs and making jobs in America, and that's going to come with tax cuts. It's not going to come with more big government.
All right, Rand Paul, thank you very, very much. The aforementioned